Good morning on Monday, June the 21st, first day of summer. We are coming to you with our Coffee Talk series with the mayor and along with our city administrator, Mr. Madden here this morning. We are blessed to be hosting this meeting at Crave Coffee. Crave Coffee is located on East Butler Road, right at the intersection of Mauldin. Great cup of coffee, great group here. Taylor, the manager, will make sure everything's taken care of as she did for us. So we thank our local business for allowing us to be here this morning. Our topic this morning was going to be on our city budgeting process. And it's not something that just happens over a weekend kind of thing. So we're going to walk you through some of the steps that we go through to get the budget. Mr. Madden takes care of all that. It was presented to council, usually March, April time frame. We go through a series of workshops, but I'll get to that once Mr. Madden takes us through the processes, how he starts the process, who's involved, and how he gets to where we're at to present it to council. So, Mr. Madden, you'll give them a quick update, or not, don't make it quick, just make it their own kind of thing. And
no,
we'll go through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So budgeting for the city is an annual process. It happens throughout the year, and it culminates with council's approval of the budget. So they're going through that process right now. Second reading approval is actually scheduled for tonight, during the council meeting tonight. But, you know, I look at, and the city looks at the budget as a living document. It changes throughout the year, but it takes into consideration many factors. So on the staff side, operationally, the budgeting process formally begins with the issuance of a guidance memorandum from my office. And that typically goes out in December of every year. And that outlines some guidelines that the department directors use in putting their budgets together. So by state law, the city has to approve an annual budget every year. And the city's fiscal year operates from July 1st to June 30th. And so we present that letter to the department directors in December, and they put together a budget. And they take into consideration a number of factors. This year, for example, and the previous year, one of the larger budgeting factors was actually COVID-19 and the way the city would deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly because it impacted and continues to impact many of the city's revenues, particularly the market-driven revenue sources, such as hospitality taxes. In addition to COVID, the department directors also looked at the economy, the unemployment rate for the city, the population growth for the city, the services that the city provides, maintaining that current service level and improving that service level of the city's service portfolio. And also the departments look at the current fiscal year and where it's projected to end, because the budget is a projection. It's what we think will bring in revenue-wise and where we think the expenditure will be. So all of that is packaged up and presented to the council, and they review and vet the budget through a number of council workshops. And then they actually approve the budget with 2 readings and a public hearing of council. So, and that starts typically for council in March, and it goes through June for them to approve the budget and set their fiscal policy for the year. And once council approves the budget, it's my job, along with the department directors for the city, to carry out that fiscal policy.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. Yeah, I guess one of the things you should have said, we probably put in October, November council with the administrator to put together our wish list, our dream list, our goals for the city of Mauldin based on input from our citizens and our business owners as well. So when we put together the list of the top 10 or top 20 goals we'd love to see our city continue on, like our city center, for instance, and our East Butler Road project. So we give those goals and aspirations to Mr. Madden at the latter part of the calendar year. He takes that into consideration as he puts together his memorandum of understanding to his departments and the department heads. I guess some of the big items this year, we implemented a capital improvement plan, 10-year projection. And during that study, I think we found out that we had gotten behind on updating our vehicle fleets, police cars, fire department, public works, things like that. So I think this year we're making a pretty strong effort to get caught up on that. You want to talk about a few of those little
Yes,
items?
absolutely. So the city has a 10-year financial projection for each of the next few fiscal years. And a part of that is our capital improvement program. And it's a comprehensive program that looks at all of the capital initiatives that are needed to improve city services. Anything budgeting wise that's over $5,000, and that's a one-time expenditure, is considered a capital purchase. And so there are a number of things that the council directed staff to look at. And one of those things was maintaining our fleet, our vehicle fleet. So a number of capital initiatives that are in the budget this year is the replacement of our city police fleet within the next 3 years. So we'll be replacing a third of that fleet in this upcoming fiscal year, which is fiscal year 2022. Also included the purchase of additional side loading trash trucks, which is an initiative that council has to have their trash trucks fully automated within the next 3 years. And the number of reasons for that is that it reduces the personnel costs. It also improves efficiency with which the Public Works Department can service each of the trash cans. And with the way the city is growing, efficiency is something that's really needed right now. In addition to those two purchases, there's also the construction of a new fire station for our headquarters off Plant Street, which is off of West Butler Road. A lot of the city's growth here recently has been in the western portion of the city, down Ashmore Bridge Road. So locating our headquarters there strategically assists with making sure our response times to fires and emergency situations remains low. The fire department has a ISO rating of a 1, which is the highest you can have. And in addition to that fire station, there'll be a police substation there as well to make sure we have adequate police presence on West Butler and down Ashmore Bridge Road as the city continues to grow that way. So all those things are taken in consideration is why you have the capital plan. It's all available for the public to review and take a look at and let us know your feedback on the city's website under the finance department. The budget is there. This past year, the city, for the first time ever, received a GFOA budget award, which is a national award for the way the budget is presented, the way it's transparent, takes into consideration many of the different facets of the city's finances, and make sure that it's done in a way that preserves the city's flexibility and maintains the city's fiscal strength.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Yeah, we're extremely proud of the fact that our finance department has been recognized, I think, for the last 14 or 15 years in a row of a very thorough budgeting process and accounting steps that we go through all during the year. Our checks and balances are in place. So we're very proud of that. We're blessed also to have a council that takes an interest in what we call the line items of our budgeting process and understands each department takes their budget and understands each line item and what it means. And it looks at the projected growth, if there's any, on a particular department that. So well, I'm real proud of them and the process that went through. This year has probably been the most seamless budgeting process we went through during our workshops. And that's a tribute to the professionalism that Mr. Madden has brought to our city administrator position and his thought processes that he goes through, and also putting that transparency out to his department so they understand that, we don't have an endless bucket of money, and we have been impacted, and some of the things are going to have to be projected out and done over time and not caught up type thing. So we're proud of it. Tonight it will be second reading in our monthly meeting. So that starts at 7 p.m. I think there's a public hearing prior to, or we'll start the public hearing right at 7, and then we'll go into our normal council meeting right after that. So, and that's one of the items that comes up on our agenda, and I think it is second reading. So all good projection says that should go through, and we ought to be set for fiscal year 2022 and continue our process. I'd be remiss if I didn't remind everybody we're doing this even with the challenges we had with COVID and the pandemic, the closures and the impact, but we're doing this budget with 0 tax increase. There is no millage increase. So that's the fantastic professional job Mr. Madden and his staff did to allow us to cover the various increases. Part of that's the efficiency you talked about. If you've seen the new garbage truck and sanitation truck in the various neighborhoods, what we call the one-arm truck, you see the efficiency there, one man operating versus 3, that thing. Of course, we got hit pretty hard last year with the fact that we have supplemented our sanitation department with inmate labor, which has been very beneficial to the city financially for many, many years. But during the COVID, they were locked down and we didn't get that manpower. So that's 12 of the 16 personnel per day that we didn't have access to. So our sanitation department, our entire public works stepped up tremendously last year because you as a citizen looked outside, you didn't miss the week that your garbage didn't get picked up, and you know, brush and leaves. We had to drag that out a little bit because all the guys were being pulled from that area and riding the back of a sanitation truck. So that was the most important thing we kept going. And of course, I can go on and on about our first responders, our police. They worked every day. No one missed a beat there. And so that, again, is a tribute to our professional staff, Mr. Madden and his leadership, and the fact that you live in probably one of the top 3 safest cities in the state of South Carolina. So we're real proud of that. As I talked about, we go through the line item on the budget. Everything was good this year. As I said, it was probably the smoothest and least amount of discussion that can get lively at times. But it was a great budget, good put through. For those of us who grew up here and we looked at it, I guess 5, 7 years ago, we saw a budget of overall budget of $19 million. This year, we'll see a budget number of $41 million. And before you jump off your kitchen table, that's not all just because of the growth of the expenses, but that's some of the bonding we're doing is included that for the new fire station, the new fire trucks to do that. And that's a major step for us. As Mr. Madden said, West Butler, if you took an aerial view, which he did along with our fire department, and we looked at where all our fire stations were at, and the closest we have to West Butler is the one at the headquarters. And those of you who try to get through that intersection recognize, I think it's the second busiest intersection in the upper state. So 40, 60,000 cars a day. And you see our fire trucks having to cross that intersection, our police cars having to cross that intersection. And it takes time. That time adds up to response time, which means when you need them, and if it's taking 5 or 6 minutes to get there, that's way beyond our norm. We shoot 3 to 4 minutes. Our data shows that we're been able to make that. It also shows as our growth on the west side continues and our call rates get increased over there, it was taking longer to get through that intersection. So that's part of the reason we moved that direction. And the map, the aerial map just showed we needed fire coverage on the west side. And so that's the forward thinking Mr. Madden and his department staff did, along with our council saying, hey, we recognize our growth and let's take a step now to be positioned for the next 20, 30, 40 years overall in our city. So real proud of that. So all that's part of the budgeting process. We're going to be taking that up tonight for second reading. That's pretty much the process, unless anybody has any questions or anything like that. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I will add, council has done an amazing job at adhering to their fiscal policies. The the city, by policy, uses conservative projections and takes a conservative approach in its budgeting. And one of the challenges presented, particularly in this current fiscal year and for next year, the fact that we're going through a pandemic and budgets are projections. When council approves the budget, the amount of money that the budget is, which is 41 million for this year, it doesn't mean the city has $41 million sitting there to be spent. It's a projection, and revenues are coming in throughout the year. And so one of the challenges that the council has every year is making sure that the projected budget is what actually occurs, because there can be a situation where you project a certain amount of revenues coming in and those revenues don't come. Fortunately for the city, that hasn't occurred. And every year the city typically exceeds their projections, and actually does a great job at making sure the expenditures are less than the revenues that come in. And so the budget is a projection. The majority of the revenues received by the city come from ad valorem property taxes and business licenses. That makes up the majority of the city's general fund. And not to go into the weeds so much, but the way the city is structured, as all cities and counties, they use fund accounting to manage their budget. So the city has 5 major funds. You have your general fund, your special revenue fund, your debt service fund, your capital projects fund, and then your enterprise fund. That makes up the entire city budget. General fund would normally take care of most of your operating costs and funds most of your department operations. Then you have your special revenue funds. Special revenue funds typically are made up of hospitality taxes, fire service, fees that are collected for a particular service, specific service. Those are your special revenue funds. Your capital project funds pay for all your capital projects. Those are typically made up of your general funds and some of your special service funds. Then you have your debt service funds, which pay your debt, your annual debt that you owe on your bonds or whatever outstanding debt obligations you may have. And then your enterprise funds. And in the case of the city of Mauldin, the city has 2 enterprise funds which operate as actual businesses. So they have a balance sheet, not necessarily a fund sheet, but a balance sheet. That's your property management fund and the sewer. The sewer service is a separate fund that's an actual business. So those are enterprise funds. All of those funds together make up the city's budget. And as council goes through that budget process and the department directors, they project out the budget and then they project out the expenditures. And the expenditures here at the city is usually historically based. So you look at what was done before, you look at the past 3 or 4 fiscal years, what the actual expenditures were, the actual revenues were, and then from there you make a projection of where you think it will be. And also take into consideration, as the mayor mentioned earlier, any of the council goals, the priorities that they set at the annual goal setting session, which is held in February, and also at the retreat that they have. The most recent retreat was held last October, and they were able to kind of go through and set out their priorities for the upcoming year, and that guides staff in executing the budget and actually putting a budget together that I recommend to council for them to vet and either vote up or down on or make changes to. So once council approves the budget and staff executes that budget, throughout the year, things may happen. Like for fiscal year 2020, COVID happened. Nobody predicted that. And so there were budget changes that had to be made after council already approved the budget to make sure it was executed in a way that services didn't drop off and that folks were being taken care of. The largest expenditure for any service-oriented organization, which is government or public service, is personnel. And personnel costs go up every year. And as the mayor mentioned earlier, you have an infinite amount of needs, it seems, but a finite amount of resources. And the mayor and council has done a fantastic job in making sure the needs are met and working within their means, within the current resources. The city has the lowest millage rate in the county out of any other cities, and the lowest tax millage for the fire service throughout the county. And the city has a great general fund, unassigned fund balance policy, which is actually can be considered like a savings account for the city. That's way above policy, and they're rated AA by Moody's and by S&P. So the fiscal house of the city is in great condition. It has been for years, and the mayor and council has done a great job of approving policies to make sure that's going to continue to happen for future years.
Yeah, we're real proud of that fact that we try to bring it up every year to say we have the lowest millage in the upstate, as well as our fire service area type thing. And I, of course, live it here. I say it's the top quality. Didn't miss a day last year on our sanitation and things like that. If you needed our first responders and police, they were there, all within that 3 or 4 minute response time. So we're blessed on that standpoint. One thing you might want to mention, we hear a little bit about that unassigned general fund balance. So sometimes we'll say, well, hey, it's at 6 million, 7 million, like that. But one of the things with our revenue cycle is we go through a period that we get the bulk of our revenue in the fall and early spring. And then collection revenue goes way down. So, it's kind of like managing cash flow in any business. You have a period where the incoming is real low. So you have to depend on that unassigned fund to take you through that process. And I think that's one of the things we do when we look at it. I think our finance director reminds us regularly that it has to be at a certain level to be sure that our cash flow continues. And that's part of that rating we get also.
That's correct. So the city the mayor and city council has done a great job in making sure as they approve the budget and approve expenditures that one of the checkpoints that has to be managed prior to approving that expenditure, what is the fiscal impact on the city's fund balance? And the city has a policy of maintaining a fund balance from 25 to 35%. And right now the fund balance, I think, is at 42%, which is significant and speaks to the strength of the city fiscally and managing its budget every year. And so that's checked off on any expenditure to see what that impact is. And typically the directive that council has given city staff is to live within your means. So if there is an expenditure or there is something that comes up that has to be addressed, how can it be addressed in a way to where you're not impacting future budgets, you're not impacting your fund balance, and you're not putting the city in an adverse fiscal position? And that type of process is utilized by the city throughout the year when managing its budget. And it's something that the department directors have really bought into and that they're using as well when they review their expenditures and when they need to present something to council that may not have been budgeted for, that's unexpected, that pops up during the fiscal year. And so those are some things that the city takes into account for when having expenditures or when expending funds. What's the fiscal impact, and is it impacting that unassigned fund balance?
That's correct. And that's, by state law, we must present a balanced budget. And you'll hear more about that tonight if you attend the council meeting, either via Zoom or via in person. And we'll explain any questions that you might have on that. Not seeing any questions pop up. So we appreciate your opportunity to join us this morning. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and to present this aspect of it. If there's additional topics in our next few months that you'd like to see us cover and talk, please get those to me. My email address is on the website along with my mobile number. Contact me and say, well, I'd like to understand more about this and how the city looks at this, and we'll be glad to talk about that in upcoming sessions. We are very thankful for the fact that we're back out. So we're appreciative of Crave Coffee allowing us to host this first of 2021 event to the public and be in their lobby area and enjoying a great cup of coffee or a hot tea and the fellowship that goes on here and seeing our citizens come and go. So we're we're thankful for that. And anything we can let you know more about, just get in touch with me. We'll put it on the agenda and go over it. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you out and about in the greatest city in the state of South Carolina, the safest city in there. So we're proud to be here, and to use the tagline of our principal down at Mauldin High School, as always, he says, "Go Mavs." I'm gonna say, "Go Mauldin." So thank you for joining us this morning. We look forward to seeing you again soon.